Well guys, recently I've been doing a lot of printing of these ear savers for nurses and doctors. A lot of the first responders are using these surgical masks to have this like an elastic band that goes behind their ears, and so this is meant for holding it behind their head instead of on their ears. Makes it a lot easier. I'll do that in a future video. I'll get into all that. But the thing is, I'm trying to print fast. Now this printer, the artillery sidewinder, I have set up with a 0.08 millimeter nozzle, and the thing can crank out 12 of these in a matter of about an hour and 7 minutes, I believe it is. This one is my Geeetech A30, and I am hard pressed to get 16 of them out, which it does have a bigger plate, so I can fit 16 on here, but it takes about 5 hours to print, and that's just unacceptable. It does have a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, so I don't have time to try ordering another nozzle. I actually don't even know if it'll work on this one because that's a volcano hot end. This one is not. This one's got the flatter looking hot end on it. So what I'm going to try doing is making my own 0.8 millimeter nozzle using a drill bit I picked up from Harbor Freight and my old drill. I'm just going to drill out a brass nozzle and try installing it and see if it works. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the printer warmed up. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to go control. Now it's faster, just go this way. Let's go that one, there. Turn on the hot end. It's going to heat up to 200 degrees, which is just fine. Next thing I want to do is I want to get the thing to raise up. Just got to remember what screen it's going to be. That's going to be move, Z. For some reason when I poke Z, it wants to home, which is fine. Let the thing home real quick, and then we'll get the thing up. It's going to go up 30 millimeters at a time each time I poke this. There we go. That should be plenty high enough. Okay, so while that is warming up, let's go ahead and prepare the nozzle. So since I have a micro Swiss nozzle on here, I don't want to drill it. So I found one of my older, it's one of the cheapy ones. I got this thing off like wish.com. They were super cheap. They're not accurate at all. I believe it was like a 0.3 millimeter when it's supposed to be a 0.4. So really not losing anything by doing this, even if it doesn't work. And then I've got my drill bit, got set on high. Let's try drilling it. I'll drill it from the inside so it'll have the best chance of being straight. There we go. So now the 0.4, or the 0.4 is now going to be a 0.8. At least that's what I'm hoping for. It looks pretty centered, so that should work. It doesn't have to be particular because these parts aren't exactly going to be really tall, so that'll be just fine. So now let this thing finish heating up, and then let's pull this nozzle out. Okay, so now that it's up to temperature, first thing I want to do is I want to pull the filament out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude a little bit, and then I'm going to pull it. And by doing that, it'll pull anything that was in that old nozzle out. And you can see how that little bit that was on the tip just fell out. Should be good. Now, once again, this is a micro Swiss, so I want to save this nozzle. Next thing I want to do is I want to gently take hold of the heat block, making sure I don't pinch any wires. And once I have hold of the heat block, where I'm not pinching any wires, I want to take a, in this case, a 7 millimeter nozzle, or 7 millimeter socket. I'm just going to release the tension on that. Now once again, this is hot, so you got to be very careful. And since that is loose, I'm now going to take and pull it out as quickly as I can so that the socket does not get hot. And as you can see, there's still a little bit of plastic in here, but I'll take care of that at a later time. Now before I install the nozzle, the next thing I want to do is I want to loosen up this nut that's up here that holds the Teflon tube in. I want to loosen that about 2 or 3 turns. Then I'm also going to take and release the plastic clip at the top here and pull the Teflon tube up just a little bit. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is take this nozzle. Keeping in mind that the hot end is still very hot. I'm going to start screwing the nozzle in, and I'm going to take the nozzle until I see that there's a little bit of a gap. I would say approximately, I want to make sure I leave about 2 millimeters, maybe 3, between the flush part of it and the heat block itself. Release the catch, push the Teflon tube all the way down, and now finish up by tightening up the coupler, snug it up, and now I'm going to go underneath one more time and tighten up the nozzle. Once again, remember that nozzle is hot, so I want to take my correct size socket, gently grasp the hot end with the pliers, and I just want to see if this is snug already. It's actually got a little bit of play to it, that's alright. Yeah, I felt snug enough before it ever touched the hot end. And now, now it's up against the heat block, but I felt it snug up against the tube before it reached that. So we should have made a really good seal. Next thing I want to do is I want to extrude some plastic through it and just see how it looks. Feed it on through the extruder, down the tube, and let's see how big of a line of filament do we have coming out. That's thick. That's definitely 0.8. It's also going to give me a chance to check out to see how it's going to feel as far as heat. And right now it's set at 220. And to feed out as much filament as it's going to take to print fast, I may have to go up to about 225 to make it feel right. Anyway, let me set it up in the slicer. Let's see how it works. Okay, so now we're over here in Cura 4.5. I created a new profile. I had an older one. It was all right, but I just wanted to start a new one, especially since I've got this new nozzle that's on this one. It's going to be a 0.8. So of course my settings have to reflect that. A few things you have to remember if you're going to do this kind of an update or an upgrade to your printer to try to print fast. Go to settings, go to your printer, manage the printers, go to machine settings, be absolutely sure, click over here on extruder and change the nozzle size to a 0.8. If you leave it at 0.4, you're going to just extrude like crazy. So that's one thing you definitely want to change there. The other thing is, since I'm going to be printing with that size nozzle, half of that would be 0.4, which would give you a clean print. By rights, I could actually go a 0.5 or a 0.6 safely. Probably be a whole lot faster. In fact, I'll probably do that at a later time. But for today, I'm just going to go with the 0.4 for the layer height. Initial layer height is going to be 0.5 because I want to have a little bit more of a gap so it can fill in any imperfections of the build plate as far as how flat it is. Line width, of course, is going to be 0.8 because that's the nozzle we got now. Wall thickness, 2 passes would be 1.6 millimeters because 8 and 8 are 16. Top and bottom, I don't really care about top and bottom on these. There's mainly the strength sideways on them. I don't care about how they are top to bottom, so that's perfectly fine like that. I'm going no infill because these are so flat, so short, there's not going to be any infill. Printing temperature. If I'm going to print fast, I have to print hot. So I'm going to print at 225. Now, the Teflon tube will start breaking down between 230 and 235 if I print that hot, so I don't want to go that hot. So I'm going to try 225 and just see how that works out. So anytime you're using the super plate on the Geeetech printer, you want to print at 65 degrees for PLA. I've tried it less and I've had problems with print sticking. 65 seems to be the sweet point. You don't want to print too hot, but at the same time, that seems to be sweet. Flow rate, 100% throughout the whole print except for the first layer. First layer, I want that to be a nice thick line going down on that build plate. Once again, to fill in any inconsistent spots on the bed. So I'm going to go 120%. So it's going to give a little bit more plastic coming out that nozzle. Print speed, since this isn't a volcano, I'm going to go with 60 millimeters per second. That might actually be a little bit too fast, but I'm going to try that. Wall speed, I'm just going to go 50. Outer wall speed, 50. Then inner wall speed, all the rest would be 60. Travel speed, I'm just going to go 120 millimeters per second. Initial layer, I want to print slow on the first layer, so it'll be 30. Rest of that I'm not worried about for this. Really not worried about that. Retraction distance is a Bowden setup, so we're fine with the 6.5. Seems like a lot, but for a Bowden, that's not bad. Cooling, it doesn't really matter on cooling. Skirt, I just have it for 2 perimeters and then 3 millimeters from the part, mainly so I'll know everything fits on the build plate. Next thing I gotta do, load all the models onto here and then put on the SD card, and we should be good to go. So let me go ahead and finish setting this up off camera, and I will be back with you in just a moment. Yeah, it's an older printer. It's got a fan on it that's starting to go out on the box, but that's all right. Okay, so I got everything preheating right now. Next thing we got to do before we go any further is level the bed. Now, what I personally use to level the bed, I use a piece of paper. Just junk mail, whatever you got. It's 20-pound printing paper is essentially what it is. Once the bed gets warmed up, it's getting pretty warm now. I'm just going to go ahead and hit level or home. Okay, so it's going to go to home. And I always put the piece of paper down first so it doesn't scratch up the build plate, because chances are that nozzle, in fact I know the nozzle is going to be a different height than what the old nozzle was. Question is by how much? That's always the good one. So I use the on-screen, I'll take you over here to this. I use the on-screen and I'll hit 3 to bring it over to this position over here. Oops, sorry about that. As you can see, that's really loose. So I'm going to have to loosen the nut just a hair. Actually, I only went about half a turn that started touching. That's actually pretty close. And I just want it so that I could take the piece of paper and drag it back and forth under the nozzle. Like it's bunching up a little bit, but not bad. I feel the tension. You can hear it rubbing. That's what I want to hear. And then next thing I want to do is go to position 4. That's going to take it over to this side of the bed. And that's about what we want right there. Take it back to this other corner. Also keep in mind that your first layer in your settings in Cura or whatever slicer you're using, your initial layer is going to give you that extra little bit of gap. The whole thing is don't want your bed at the zeroed out point. You don't want your nozzle touching your bed. You just don't want too tight, you don't want too loose. And the piece of paper just gives you that little bit of a gap. It kind of lets you know where it's at. And like I said, that initial layer height is going to make sure that you're going to be all right. That's going to be pretty good. I'm not going to go around it again. That's going to be fine. Okay. So let's go ahead, pull that out. Let's start printing. I already leveled the bed. Okay, I already showed it leveling the bed. I'm going to take and wipe it down one more time. I'm almost tempted to run back through the leveling one more time, but you know what? I think it's going to leave like that. Now, let's hope it works. And once again, this is printing pretty hot for for what we're doing here, but the thing is we're trying to cram a lot of plastic through fairly fast. Just hope it's not too fast. Printing just on the outside of the build plate. I'm still going to let it go because 3 millimeters in from there we might be alright. I'm looking to see if there's a wave back here, which there is, so I'm not maxed out on my build plate on the back side. And I'm right on the edge over here. So I'm confident they should print all right. Yeah, it's literally right on the edge of the build plate. We come in 3 millimeters, we'll be fine. That one didn't stick, but that's all right. I'm actually going to take and loosen that build plate just a little bit to bring it up. Just want to see that line squish a little bit. Sometimes you have to adjust on the fly that way. That was really pushing it. I'm going to have to readjust the models a little bit on the next go around. I'm going to see if this one will complete. Actually going to pull the skirt off of it. And the reason why I'm going to pull it off is because it's just going to interfere with that print over there. Keep in mind this first layer is going to be kind of rough because I do have it as 120% extrusion. If I reslice this model, I'll probably take it down to 115 or 110. That's actually not bad. It looks rougher than it really is. Let's see if we can get in there so you can see a closer look at that. Right now it's filling in the little holes, the little ears. So far, extrusion wise, it looks about right. I am very happy with the way it's looking, even though it was just a drilled out nozzle. Anyway, I'm going to let this thing print, and then we'll come back to it here in about 2 hours and see what it looks like. Well, that was approximately about an hour and a half, and that printed a whole lot faster. Layer lines are probably not the greatest for the first layer, but for what these are, that's actually going to work out really good. Once again, I'll have an actual video of what these are and all that, and how they work and all that later on. But I just wanted to do a really quick video, which didn't turn out to be so quick in real time, of creating my own 0.8mm nozzle. It'll work for this. I don't know if it'll work for anything else, but it'll definitely work for this, and cut the time in under half. That's just crazy to me. Anyway guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.